The Madman! Welcome again to the top cards of the week from the custom Hearthstone Reddit. Starting with the Illusionist, 4 mana 4/3, during your opponent's turn transform into a random mage secret. I mean, the idea is cool, right? But the first flaw is you are paying 4 mana for a random mage secret. They can play something which might trigger their secret, your secret, and then the Illusionist dies. Secondly is after the Illusionist comes out of being a mage secret, back on your turn, it can't even attack because it just, came onto your board. So that's the major flaws in terms of, wow, the card can never attack, and wow, the card's super weak. As printed, I'm going to say the design of this card is 1 star, and the balance of it is 1 star, drastically weak. But I should be a little bit fair, because the intent of the card is after it comes back into play, it can attack just like a minion. It would get a little bit wordy. I guess it would have to read, at the beginning of your opponent's turn, transform into a random mage secret. At the end of your opponent's turn, transform back into the Illusionist. I'll up the design up to 3 stars. Balance is still 1, it's too weak. Just because you are paying 4 mana for a random secret, pretty much. But it's not beyond saving. I'll up the balance to 2 stars. I'm feeling generous. Nervous Sapling, Druid, 2 mana 2/2. Your choose 1 cards cost 1 less, but choose at random. Removing the choice is an interesting idea, but it turns out that reducing the choice makes a lot of cards really bad and only makes the minions good. So in the end, it's not really that interesting. And then in the end, it's just like your minions cost 1 less. It's like whatever. So I'm gonna make the design 2 stars, balance 3 stars. Queen of Pain, art taken from Dota. Don't sue me, Dota. Whenever your hero takes damage, shuffle that mini Pain into your deck instead. Pain is deal 1 damage to your hero and draw a card, cast this when drawn. Ignores Queen of Pain, which is important text because otherwise, when your Pain triggered, it would just shuffle another Pain back into your deck, which could be an infinite loop. Interesting idea, which is going to delay the damage that you take. Statted Find of 4 mana 3/6 demon. It's a card that your opponents are going to want to kill. But I think it's completely fair, and it's a really interesting effect. In fact, it's so interesting in effect that it really should not be a rare card. It should be legendary. Despite that misstep, I think that the card is such a cool idea that I'm going to rate it 5 stars for design. Balance-wise, I did consider that you can Togwoggle the Pain to your opponent. You can Renounce Darkness your Pain. You can Skulking Geist your Pain. But I found all of that to be a cool idea, especially after the card was legendary. It would probably mainly be used just for the proper purpose of delaying your pain. 5 star for balance. Golden Retriever, who's a good boy? 4 mana 2/2 Battlecry, draw a golden card from your deck. Intended as a tutor, and ridiculously overpowered for that purpose, because a 2/2 that finds a specific card that you want from your deck is way too overpowered. Not to mention the outcry from the community at the, oh, I have to craft Gul'dan, huh? Ridiculous. That said though, I do think that the card is so cleverly named that it should be a card name someday, and it should have something to do with maybe discover a golden card. The card as is though, design 1 star, balance 1 star. I would hope that, and I think that Blizzard does realize that they should never do anything that actually references cards that are actually golden that were put into your deck in the collection phase. Next up, for Shaman, 0 mana Water Nova. Deal 0 damage to all enemy minions. Shaman can roll the spell damage totem, and then it could be 0 mana, deal 1 to all enemy minions. I think it's a miss for this card not to be named Splash. I think the design of the card is 3 stars. I'm not entirely sure that it is a good card to print just because it's so reliant on a combo, and it's so specific, and it certainly shouldn't be common. Probably an epic card. But such a card, it's possible it should never be printed just because it's one of those cards where if you were to open this as an epic card, you'd be like, what? And when you're just randomly generating it with Hagatha, it feels super bad also. Balance-wise, there's not really much you can adjust to this to make it fair, other than like to all enemies, which would still probably not see play. So I'm gonna make the balance 3 star there. It's like just woefully in a bad spot. A card like this is interesting, but probably wouldn't be printed unless you printed it alongside a really interesting spell damage minion, I guess. Or spell damage spell. Faceless Reaper. Neutral 5 mana 0/6 taunt. The minion has as much attack as the enemy that targets it. So the card is comparable to Trog Gloom. Eater, 5 health, but kills any enemy, and can even attack for 1. So this card is underpowered right now. So the design of the card, I think, is 4 stars, and I think the balance is a bit on the weak side. So I'm gonna say 3 stars. It should be a 0-8. Get Rekt, a mage secret. After your opponent plays a minion, deal 8 damage to random enemy minion. The first mage secret that would be your opponent can play a minion, and then you can do something to their other minion. Very flavorful, although perhaps better flavor would be deal 8 damage to random enemy. The author rightfully did say, though, that they didn't want 2 secrets to possibly be able to burn the opponent's face. So the design of the card, I'm going to give 3 stars. It's in an interesting situation where it has to follow the Ragnaros flavor, and it has to fit into a mage secret, so you can't change the numbers of 8 or 3 mana or random enemy. So it has to be pretty much exactly this text, which means there's not much you can do about it. But I would say you should make it random enemy, and the card should not be printed until after Explosive Runes rotates out. The balance of it, I'm going to give 3 stars as well, and I feel like you can print this card after Explosive Runes rotates. And the text should be changed from random enemy minion to just random enemy. Madam Black, 4 mana, combo, draw 3 cards, usual 5 armor attached with all the hero cards. And then your hero power becomes Hallucinate, for 2 mana. Discover a card from your opponent's class. Ridiculously overpowered. Drawing 3 cards is worth around 5 mana. Bundle that with your 5 armor, and that should be worth 6, or maybe even 7. And your hero power becomes an inevitable win the game at the end. What this should be compared with is Deathstalker Reckshalent, I would say. Both Control Rogue and Control Hunter could use a little bit of help. Deathstalker Reckshalen's Build-A-Beast is a better power than No Thigh Foe. The draw 3 cards is a bit better than deal 2 damage to all enemy minions, but does have a combo requirement. For that reason, I think that the card could push the envelope at 6 mana, but probably 6 or 7 mana is the right amount of mana we're looking for here. The design of the card strikes me as a little bit boring, to be honest. It's just drawing cards and then turning your hero power into Hallucinate, which is a good general thing to do. So since I'm feeling in a good mood, I guess I'll give the design 3 stars. The balance is 1 stars, 2 or 3 mana, too little at the moment. Next up, we've got Rook of the Wall, a big warrior legendary, 9 mana, 6/10, which is the same stats as Giant Mastodon. Taunt, which is the same thing as Giant Mastodon. Death Rattle, shuffle a copy of your armor into your deck. Your armor being however much armor you have at the time. Eventually, when you get through your deck, you'll draw that card, and then it insta-casts and gains you that much armor again. And then, you get the other card as well that you would normally draw. I like the idea of the card. I'm gonna give the design of the card 5 stars. Interesting idea. Could be a solid addition to Control Warrior. And the balance of the card, I'm gonna say it's a little bit underpowered, even though it's just a better Mastodon right now. You'd have to make it quite a bit better than Mastodon, really, to see any amount of play. I'm giving it 4 star in balance, and my suggestion would be to make the Death Rattle a battle cry instead. Interestingly enough, the card itself is odd, which lends itself well to Baku-type decks. Another hero card. Custom Hearthstone loves making hero cards, probably because they're so flashy. Orzham, Stormbinder, for Shaman. And also the cards that you can inherently make the most OP and get away with it. 7 mana, Battle Cry, add 4 cards with Overload to your hand. Turns your hero power into passive. Your Overload also affects your opponent, which allows you to basically lock them out if you have Overload cards. But wait, Orzham gives you 4 cards with Overload. Certain decks are out there which need to cast cards which have a lot of mana. Faceless, Jaina, Death Knight for Warlock, Ultimate Infestation, those big game enders. So you can lock them out for a very long time. Even if you don't lock them out, just reducing your opponent's mana pool is a really big effect. I theorized, would this ever possibly see any print with just like a permanent your Overload also affects your opponent? And probably the answer is no, it's way too disruptive. No, this isn't even beginning to talk about the 4 extra cards you get with Overload just for free for playing this card. Design of the card, super flawed. Hero power, 1 star. Balance, nowhere clear. It's like ridiculously overpowered, 1 star. But at least Orzham gets countered by this next card, and we're ending with a good one. Greater Polymorph. It turns your enemy hero into a sheep with the hero power, summon a 1/1 sheep. Does not heal them, does not get rid of armor, does not get rid of quests or weapons or whatnot. Simply turns their hero power into summon a 1/1 sheep is what it effectively does. Does not turn them into a beast so you can Hemet them. And the intent of the card is to counter hero cards. Could also be played alongside Frostlich Jaina to negate their hero power because summon a 1/1 sheep happens to be really bad against Frostlich Jaina's hero power. However, against the majority of decks, you are basically paying 6 mana to do nothing. With Frostlich Jaina, it's such drastic overkill. So it really is used for just the specific counter of certain Death Knight cards or big hero cards. And even then, I find that it probably doesn't, lock them out of the game because you're not 100% reliant on the hero card, and it costs an appropriate amount of mana for such a tech counter card, and it's appropriately very bad against a lot of decks, against the majority of decks. Like over 90% of the decks played in today's meta at least. For that reason, I think it's a very appropriately printed and funny card. By the way, your hero emotes all become various emotes. So, design 5 stars, balance 5 stars. Appropriate, hilarious, fits right into Hearthstone.